So you think it's no big deal if we just let people get away with using nudity in a very wrong way? Well, maybe you'd better think it over, because since people have used it the wrong way, we've had to get pretty authoritarian on keeping our children protected, and that has made our laws pretty narrow. And I'll show you something real interesting, and I want you to pay close attention. This pie chart, as you might notice, it shows the genetics needed to be able to use nudity the correct way. And so therefore, if you take a look real carefully at this green piece of the pie, this is how much discipline against nudism in your genetics you will be required to have in order to be trusted with nudity at all. And the way that has been deemed is through the neurophysicist's genetic ability scanning ultrasound device, and that's how they know. And there has to be 20% or less that's not working in the red zone. The red is the stuff that's not working, and then the green is the stuff that is. And so therefore, if anytime you have any less than this, that's when it gets into pornography with media and books and those dirty stores. People might think that children are the last to get affected by this. Well, I'm afraid not. Misuse of anything is one thing children are always the first to be affected by. And it's pretty obvious, because if you misuse anything, you're affecting the most vulnerable first. And that's just the way it is. You don't necessarily need to be at 100% where you disdain all nudity. You just need to be no less than 80%. There's no which is in this. I mean, it has to be between 80 and 99%. There's no need for 100. And you don't have to go to 100 to be at 80. You just have to let the neurophysicist be the one to decide, and there you have it. Now, if we use authoritarian control to train somebody the safety in nudity, or if we permit misuse of it just for our own constitutional rights, people who can be trusted with nudity don't get any credit for the way it's used in medical organizations. People with medical needs, that's for nudity, books or magazines or DVDs, can't get it, and then they look segregated in society. The wrong people end up in trouble with the law over nudity, and the prisons will be overcrowded. Stores related to nudity will go out of business, and nobody, even those with medical needs, will ever be fed. And here in the right area, the trusted person will make an attempt to steal into somebody's personal space and get bad grades under the decider's fault. And there's going to be a lot more reports of child pornography, and they'll multiply as each year goes by due to keeping it up with filthy sexuality media and magazines. Serial killers and killing reports continue to happen because there's nothing to stop the situation with, which creates grieving and sensitivity for many people. If you've probably noticed someone who oversensitively says they don't know you every time you say hi, remember, they're the ones who were probably kidnapped by a serial killer once, and they're still sensitive about it. And so therefore, it takes the right people to try to reassure them that we're in the process of fixing it, and they'll only give up their sensitivity if they happen to hear about our plan and people vote yes to it. Otherwise, we're just going to be in the hall of shame with this person's silhouette with black and white stripes. Now this picture, as you might see, this is how it all functions. If you take a look at these weeds up on the top, these weeds are child pornography. These root are the girly magazines and sexuality magazines. Anything that looks poor in nudity, getting too close to the anatomy of a living thing. And so, therefore, because of these roots, we have these weeds. So therefore, by just making an arrest primarily and doing conviction without thinking, you're just ripping off all these leaves or these stems and leaving a place for new ones to grow. That's kind of the way it always works. Weeds work that way, and so does this. In fact, for those who probably think that they should avoid child nudity totally, if you try to use only that to stop this, let me tell you something. You're not going to get a lot of cooperation out of that. I mean, there's still a root that causes it. You can see it on the second column here, and you can see that this particular field or skating park is only 2 by 22 meters long. I mean, in spite of the fact it's 48 meters all the way around, it's only 2 by 22, 44 squares, and it doesn't work. But if we decide to ban the sexuality and dirty girly books as well as child nudity, we'd still be in a field or skating park that's 144 square feet, 12 by 12, and 48 meters in perimeter. You gotta remember that even though things probably look like they mean the same, it's the same in perimeter, but a different area. See, the difference in area is kind of what's recognized most, because in some areas it's disparaging. The top one is what's known as disparaging, whereas the bottom row is one that's including, making things. And in this particular chart, as you can see, it shows the rating on how it all works. The safe zone is naturism and natural beauty, mainly for people who have medical problems and need just books and magazines and media about them to help them feel good about themselves and just healthy bodies in the real outdoors. That's the white zone. You're safe there. You don't have to worry too much about getting in trouble there. I mean, unless someone has you under authoritarian control, you're perfectly safe. Remember, even less than 80 right here, the pink zone, that's the poor zone. It's so poor that it gets to a point where there's just not much left to do. You should know that's pretty logical. Misuse of someone at one age affects all the ages. That's why this chart's true. If we leave the decision of the trust in nudity to what the neurophysicist says before or during or after the operation, or if not needed at all, well, we'll have people who can be trusted with nudity and get adequate credit for the way it's used in medical organizations. People with medical needs for nudity books and magazines and DVDs can get them wherever they're sold at. The right people get in trouble with the law over nudity, and the prisons won't be as overcrowded. They can make sure that only those not eligible for repairs can go to prison. That way, we don't have to overcrowd things. There'll be plenty of stores related to this to go to, and they'll have the right kind of security system for entry and purchasing. A trusted person will get to go to the right store for books and magazines and DVDs about nudity and refrain from stealing into people's personal space. The reports of child pornography will diminish as each year goes by, since there won't be any more sales on filthy sexuality media and magazines. The serial killers and killing reports will diminish and then cease because we're using the scientific fact about nudity and eradicating grieving and sensitivity for many people. And if we could just tell this to the people who did actually lose loved ones in this or were once kidnapped by serial killers, they won't even have a reason to be sensitive about it, and we'll even get a gold medal for it. Now here's the plan with the new naturist simulation theater. You're gonna like it. As you can see, this is the front room, and this is the only way into the building, so therefore you have to make sure that you go through here, and there's two desks. One is a security personnel desk, and they check your ID to see if you're at least 21 or 18 or anywhere between the two, whatever state law says. And then they got the neurophysicist examiner desk for if you don't have the ID that proves that your DAN level is at least 80%. You have to have both parts to be trusted in there at all. If you have only one of those parts, it's just the bolt, whereas if you have both parts, it's the bolt with the nut. You have to double bolt the trust or else it doesn't mean anything. And the doors open if both cards say you're acceptable to go in. This right here is the bar of the new naturist simulation theater. This place serves regular meals at all times of the day and night. They also serve more than just alcoholic beverages, because only if your genetic restraining ability is at least 85% for beer and wine and 90% are other hard liquors. See, the thing about alcohol, as we told you once before, is you can only be trusted in having even one drink if your genetic restraining ability is at 85%, as well as being 21. 21's only the bolt part. Having the 85% genetic restraining ability is the nut that goes with it. And this here is the IMAX theater. This is where they're all shown. Views on all the walls, and you can see what goes on there. These walls help you see what naturist life is really like, and mostly it shows the outdoors. I mean, it's got some things based on Russia, and it looks at least 1,000 times better than the human body under stage lights, which depletes all of the beauty. So you gotta keep in mind, you get to know what it's like while you're sitting down. Then when you leave, you'll probably be able to decide whether or not it's something you want for your own. And here's the store, and this is where we go to sell these things. The store only carries beauty that's natural or stuff with naturist colonies, and that's it. Doesn't carry anything else. Any video that has any children in it is never shown without an adult with them. It never does that. This is acceptable, and we might get some trust from that with using only naturism and natural beauty, and that's what we need. This store has just what you need, and you can see just what's there. They've got all the videos they made in Russia. They've got all just what you can imagine. So here's the deal. I want you to think about how it feels to do things differently. It is entirely up to the neurophysicist whether or not anyone can be trusted with nudity. They have their genetic ability scanning ultrasound to be able to find out whether or not it's trusted. It can tell you the likelihood of whether or not someone could get a criminal record based on it, and that would help make sure that they end up not coming in so they don't end up with one. And that's how it goes. And if it does happen to determine that they are well trusted, then the criminal record is void. It doesn't mean anything. Courts will have to take it off. It's no good. And so therefore, as a parent or guardian, you cannot use authoritarian control to stop them. That is not okay. Because if it's reported that your child or whoever you're thinking of has stolen into somebody's personal space, you'll be writing half the apology to them. You'll tell them you made a terrible mistake in holding them back from things. You'll fess up to the fact you knew that there was something all along and you just didn't trust them out of your own impulses. And they'll probably realize that they didn't have a chance. And that's that. So keep that in mind. Don't you ever use authoritarian control to stop it, or you're going to be responsible for a nudity mistake your child made.